My name is Trevor, and I will be your stripper today. And today we are stripping down a 1986 Toyota Corolla. Now, I can tell you one thing. This car is most likely going to be a pain in the butt. Not only is it black paint, and black paint always seems to be a little harder, but it was made after the 80s. And it seems like anything made after the 80s, the paint chemistry was different, and it's just a lot harder to remove. But let's go over this thing real quick. I'll get it tied up and get it in the tank. So this thing's really solid, honestly. There's not a whole bunch going on. Some slight surface rust in a few areas. Battery tray. A little bit of pitting and some rock coming through around the side. We do have a decent amount of undercoating, and this might be that rubberized undercoating, which that's a pain in the butt to remove also, so we will see. Kind of feels like it. Have a look at the floor. All the sound deadening is left in, but it doesn't seem too bad. I'm probably going to take a putty knife or something and just scrape this out because it lifts out pretty easily. Or maybe just let it go for the first dip and see how the chemical works on it. But floor is real solid. Everything's straight. I don't see any real dings or dents anywhere. We do have a little bit of rust back here in a few areas. And down here, you see it's actually rotting away there between those seams. Come over to the passenger side. Oh, here, I didn't even see this. We got some rock coming through there. That's definitely going to open up. Yep. And right here. Have a look at the floor on this side. Not much to see in the floor, honestly. Oh, we got some pitting and some rust coming through in that corner right there. Looks pretty good on that side. And back to the front. All right, so let's get this thing tied up and put it in the tank.
So the sound deadening was a little tougher than I anticipated. So here I'm working at it by hand and using a putty knife to just pry it off. But it's pretty tough. I'm going to pressure wash it a little more. I'm going to use a 0 degree tip and cut sections out. That's usually what I end up doing. But this car required a lot more handwork than anticipated. And as you can see here, I'm uncovering some rust holes and a pile of rust under this sound deadening. As you can see, I'm using the 0 degree tip to cut sections out and then just blast them away. I actually enjoyed this. It's kind of fun to do and a little satisfying to watch. The sections just fly off one at a time. It was tough to do one-handed though. Kind of sucked. And as you can see, we got a lot removed, but there were some sections that just wouldn't come off, so we're going to let the chemical do some work. And you can see here, I was trying to speed up this process a little bit, get rid of some more of this paint and just quicken things up. So I'm taking a more aggressive chemical and just painting it on. And you can see the paint blistering up already. And then we're going to pressure wash this off real quick. Here we're putting the Toyota back in the alkaline again. This car's taking a lot of work. It's way more work than I thought it was going to be, but we're going to take it out here in about a day or two and pressure wash it again, see what's left, and see what other work we need to do to it. The underside of the car was actually probably the hardest part. This rubberized undercoating was such a pain in the butt. I had to really focus on it with the pressure washer, and I ended up working a lot of it off by hand. But I could have made this video 10 hours long. I spent hours under this thing just getting this off of here. So here are some pictures of what it looked like after I pressure washed it. Now, I spent a decent amount of time with the pressure washer, but I'm going to attack this by hand with my die grinder and a braided wire brush. I found that's what's best to use for this stuff. And I'm just showing you real quick, working a little bit of it off here because I spent a decent amount of time under here. As you can see, I got like 95% of it off. There's a few big chunks, but now that I got under all of that, the chemical's gonna do all the work and it should come off pretty easily. And while I was under there, I found a tire iron, which is pretty neat. Always finding neat stuff on these cars. Now here, there were still some specks of sound deadening, very small pieces, and some of the seam sealer. And I'm just working at that with my die grinder and a wire brush. And just showing you real quick kind of the handwork that goes into some of these cars. Now this one is a little different because this one took a lot more work. So it's nearing the end of the day, and I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at this. I still have some work to do with the die grinder, take care of some of this seam sealer. But I wanted you to have a quick look at it before we get it into the tank for its last alkaline dip. You can see we still have some little patches of that rubberized undercoating. Some rock coming through on the pillar, and you can see some more seam sealer. In the floor, there's all that rust we uncovered, removing the sound deadening, but all in all, this thing's pretty solid. That floor looks great, honestly. Look at these quarters. Driver's side's pretty straight. Roof looks good. Where the spare tire goes, you can see we have some rock coming through and a little bit of rust. Still a little bit of paint there also. Probably hit that with that more aggressive chemical that I use. But as you can see, this thing is starting to become bare metal. Few dents in the flare of the passenger side. More clear to see when it's bare metal instead of when there was paint on it. There's a better look at those rust holes coming through. And you could see that's going to open up there. Uncovered some rock coming through. Now, as I said, this is going back in the alkaline bath, but I'm not going to show that dip or the pressure washing after because it really wasn't worth it. So we're just going to go straight to the acid bath. Here's the car going into the acid bath for the first time. And this one didn't have a lot of rust, so it's probably going to be a one and done in the acid bath. I believe it was in over the weekend, so it got an extra day. And we spiked the acid, so it has a little more strength. So get this thing in here, we'll pull it out come Monday, pressure wash it, and we'll see how it looks. So here, after pulling it out of the acid bath, we're lowering it into the alkaline bath. That's to neutralize all the acid. This will keep it from flash rusting. It's only going to spend about 10 or 15 minutes in here. Then we pull it out, give it a pressure washing, throw it in our water-based rust inhibitor, and then we're going to go over this thing.
The 1986 Toyota Corolla is finally finished. Got this thing down to bare metal, and I have to say, every Toyota I've done, the metal always looks amazing after it's finished. Now, saying that, this is only the second Toyota I've ever done, but this car wasn't too bad. The paint was a little tough, had a lot of sound deadening. That was a little rough, but the hardest part about this car was the rubberized undercoating on the bottom. That took a lot to remove. It would have only taken like probably 2 or 3 dips in the alkaline, but I ended up removing a lot of it by hand, and especially the sound deadening too. It just was taking up too much time in the tank, and I put a little extra work into this car. But it definitely paid off because this thing looks so sweet.
So let's have a quick look at this thing and see what it looks like naked. As you can see, this metal is absolutely beautiful. It just finished up so nicely. Everything's so solid about this car. We do have a little bit of pitting and rot on the battery tray, but nothing too ridiculous. Everything's nice and straight. Have a look at the side real quick. Everything finished up real nice on there. That pillar, we have a little bit of rot. And around the windshield, you can see all that pitting. Roof looks straight, perfect. We got some rot coming through on the floor, but other than that, the floors are immaculate. Come around to the quarters. You can see got a little bit of a dent there. Nothing too crazy. Come back to the back, and you can see where all that rot was. I thought that was going to open up a little bit more, but it didn't. Have a look in the trunk real quick. Pretty solid. Little bit of pitting and rot coming through, especially in that spare tire. You can see around the gas cap, we have some rot coming through, and at the bottom of that flare, rotted out pretty good. I believe that's where I got that tire iron from. Flare's a little boogered up. Nothing too bad, though. Floor on this side looks great, and we could see where those opened up. Didn't open up too much, though. Still looks pretty solid. Have a look underneath the roof. I know people like to see that. Roof from this side. Come down to the side. Everything finished up real nice there. And back to the front.
But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I actually really enjoyed making this one. This one took a lot of work, but I think it's gonna make for a good video. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you at the next car.